Hi friends, we are on to problem string 5. Sorry there was a delay in me posting it. You are going to need some different colors today, and you're going to need your student book, page 269. So when you open up your student book to page 269, it'll have a bunch of clocks on it. Pause anytime, like always. Make sure you have something to color with, colored pencil, a marker. I have 3 different colors here. I don't have my favorite color, green, but I do want to use all of them. As long as you have one colored pencil and then something else like a regular pencil or a pen, that should work just fine. If you want multiple, that's great too. Make it more fun and colorful. Okay, so if we have 2 hours, how many halves are in 2 hours? This is another one where you might say, Miss Miller, so easy, but please write the equation on your scrap paper and show me in your student book how you would model that. So remember, we're practicing using clock faces to model how many halves are in 2, or how many half hours are there in 2 hours. I'll give you a second to work, but while I do that, I'm thinking of splitting this clock in half. We know half of 60 minutes is 30 minutes, and I'm going to do that for 2 hours. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the way I'd write that equation is 2 divided by a half equals 4. Pat yourself on the back if you got it right. Okay, next one, my friends. This one's a little different. What is 1/2 hour divided into 2 equal amounts of time? So pause and think. What is 1/2 hour divided into 2 equal parts of time? We're going to have to write it different, right? 1/2 hour, and we'll use this clock to save space. I want you to go ahead and write it on yours, and I'll write it on mine. 1/2 divided by 2. That's our expression. Now we need to show that, model it, and solve it. So first, like we did before, we'll start with a 1/2 hour. And then what do we do? Landon, what do we do? Yes. Nice, kiddo. So we've got to split that directly in 2 equal amounts. So doesn't have to be perfect. You're able on yours to really draw in 15 minutes, right, which is a half of 30. So each of these is how much of an hour? You guessed it right, Taryn. Beautiful. So 1/4 of an hour, right? And we can see that when we divide a 1/2 of an hour into 2, each spot is 1/4 of an hour. Beautiful. Let's move on. All right, friends, go ahead and get out your color, and I'm going to ask you something different. You're going to have to use all 4 this time. 1, 2, 3, 4 clocks. So, how many thirds of an hour are there in 4 hours? Let's rewind and think about that. How many thirds of an hour are there in 4 hours? So, we're going to need all 4 clocks. We're going to need to know what 1/3 of an hour looks like. Drake, you got this. How many minutes are in 1/3 of an hour? Beautiful. We know there's 20, right? Because 20 plus 20 plus 20 gives us 60 minutes, also known as an hour. These are not perfect. Like I said, you'll do a better job on yours because you have all the minutes there. Every time we go from one spot or dash to another on a clock, how many minutes is that? Quick reminder. Olivia, how many minutes is that? Boom, 5 minutes. Beautiful. So that will help us count out to get to 20 minutes if that's easier for you. Okay, but how would we write this equation? How would we write this equation? How many thirds of an hour are there in 4 hours? Well, we take 4 and divide it by, pause if you need to and come back. Beautiful. 4 divided by 1/3. I realize it's not very dark. I'm going to write it in the blue. Okay, now, in order to solve this, I'm not going to use different colors this time, but we're going to go 1, 2, count with me, 3, 4, 5, keep going, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 4 divided by 1/3 equals, beautiful, 12. Kind of trying to separate these. So I didn't really do the best job drawing this next one. So the cool thing about this is we have extra clocks. If you mess up on one, no big deal. Just cross it off, right? Doesn't have to be perfect, just good enough. So we're going to go back and try it again. I am going to ask, if I have a half an hour, nope, just kidding. If I have a third of an hour, which we know from our, is it okay to make a mistake? Is it okay to change your thinking? Yes. So I'm going to try one more time. A third of an hour. If I have a third of an hour and I want to divide it into 4 equal parts, right? We just talked about how each little dash on your clocks on page 269 is 5 minutes. 5, 10, 15, 20. So, I'm sure you'll do a better job than me, but it's good enough. If I were to divide 1/3 of an hour into 4 equal parts, please show me what that equation would look like while I finish coloring it in. Now, on the entire clock, we know that if we were to go around the whole circle, right, we would have 12 of these little dashes, or just like 5 minutes, 12 times. So out of the entire clock, when we write the equation for 1/3 of an hour divided into 4 equal parts, it looks like 1/3 divided by 4 equals one of those sections is what we're thinking about, right? That equals 1/12. 1/12 of the clock. So we're remembering that we're looking at the entire clock always, even if we just start out with 1/3 of an hour and break that into 4 parts. And when we break it into 4 parts, just like we learned about with brownies way back, we're thinking about what that little section of the whole thing represents. 1 out of 12. Air 5. Awesome. Hang in there. We're almost done. We're going to do 3 clocks now. Quarters of an hour are there in 3 hours. So let's take 1, 2, 3. And Opal's going to help us with this one. She wants a little cuddle. So if we have 3 hours divided into what? 3 divided by 1/4. How many quarters of an hour are there in 3 hours? Pause if you need to. Opal thinks we should switch up our color scheme just for now. We're going to use a highlighter to represent 3 full hours. 1, 2, 3. All right, guys. So, if we were to ask how many quarters of the hour are there in 3 hours, we would have to count each quarter. Do that with me. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12. So 3 divided by a quarter equals 12. We have one last one. What's 1/4 of an hour? This is going to be interesting, a little unique. 1/4 of an hour divided into 3 equal amounts of time. All right, so all we have to know at first is that we're starting with 1/4 of an hour. That's good information to have, which is the same thing as 1/4 of an hour, which is the same thing as this section here, right? We know that because we know 1/4 of an hour is 15 minutes. Okay? So if we have 1/4 divided into 3 equal amounts of time, how do we do that one? Pause there, come back. Okay, friends, we're almost done. So while you were working, I just drew our little lines that you already have, a little more obvious than mine, on your clock. And if we take 1/4 of an hour, 1/4, and divide it into 3 equal parts, how much of an hour is that left? So if we divide 1/4 of an hour into 3 equal parts in time, we're just looking at this section here. 1, 2, 3. That's 5 minutes. But if we need to write that as a fraction, what is that? Looking for friends. Notice you're noticing. Daniel, what is that? Yes. So we don't want to write 5 because that wouldn't be true. Even though it's 5 minutes, we need to write it as a fraction. How much of the entire clock is this one section? Yes. 1/12, right? 1/12. So, there we have it. Nice work, my friends. Opal says, great job. Tune in tomorrow for the next problem string. Bye. Friends, I had one last thought. As I'm looking at the hard work we did today, I'm wondering 2 things. One is, when is the quotient, which we know is the answer, right? When is the quotient less than both of the numbers in the equation? So like the last one we did. Interesting to notice. When is the quotient greater than both of the numbers in the combination? I'm seeing this one here. And I wonder why that's so. You get bonus points if you write a little something on your Google Doc to tell me why that pattern exists and what do you notice.